What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Jared Speaks, episode 10. 10 episodes. I want to let that set for a second. 10 episodes in, and I am more grateful than I have words for. The people who have been here since day one, the people who just found the show, the people who keep coming back. You're the reason this exists. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Now, episode 10. And this one is personal in a different way than others have been. Because this one's about something I caught myself doing in real time, mid sentence, out loud. And I almost kept going like it didn't happen, but I stopped, and I want to start there. A little while back, I was talking about this podcast and what it means to me. And I said something along the lines of the podcast makes me feel important. It makes me feel intelligent. And I want to be seen as intelligent. And right as I said those words, I stopped myself because something in me recognized what was happening. That was not me talking, not the real me. That was something else. Something that needs a certain kind of validation to feel okay. Something that has been running in the background of my decisions for as long as I can remember. That was my ego. And the fact that I caught it, the fact that I heard it in real time and was able to step back and look at it instead of just letting it keep going. That is what this today's episode is about. Because most people never catch it. Most people live their entire lives being driven by their ego without even realizing there's a difference between the ego and who they actually are. Let's talk about it. Most people, when they hear the word ego, think it means someone who is full of themselves, arrogant, too big for their boots. And that is the one tiny piece of it, but it misses the whole picture. Here's what ego actually means in the simplest terms that I can give you. Your ego is the identity of your mind built around who it thinks you are. From the time you were young, your brain started collecting information, how people treated you, what you were good at, what you got in trouble for, what made people love you, what made people pull away, and all of that. All of those experiences, all of those reactions, all that feedback, your brain built character, built a version of you, a story about who you are, what you are worth, and how you need to be seen by the world. Your character is the ego, or that character, I should say, is the ego. And the ego has one job above everything else: protect itself, protect the story it has built, make sure the image it has created stays intact. Which sounds harmless until you realize what that actually means in real life. It means the ego needs to be right, even when being wrong would serve you better. It means ego needs to be respected, even when swallowing your pride would open a door. It means ego gets wounded, and when it gets wounded, it makes decisions, big ones, without asking you first. This is the part I really need you to sit with, because I think is the most important idea in this whole episode. The ego is not you. It is something your mind created. It is a layer, a character built from experiences and reactions of other people's opinions and wounds that never fully healed. It runs so automatically, so quiet in the background, that most people never even realize there's a difference between the ego talking and them talking. Think about the last time you got into an argument and could not let it go. Not because the issue was actually that important, but because something in you needed to be right, needed the other person to admit it, could not move on until that happened. That was the ego. Think about the last time someone said something about you, maybe not even directly to you, and it hit you harder than it probably should have. Not just hurt feelings, something deeper, a kind of sting that just stayed with you, that you kept turning over in your head. That was the ego feeling like its story was being challenged. Think about a time you made a decision, pulled away from something or someone, choose pride over connection, went quiet when you should have spoken. And looking back, you can barely recognize the reasoning, like someone else made that call. That was the ego driving. And here's the thing, you were not wrong to feel those things. The hurt was real. The reaction made sense in the moment. But the ego took that real feeling and ran with it, made choices on your behalf that the deeper, calmer version of you might not have made. When the ego cost you something that matters. I want to get personal here without going into details that are not mine alone to share. You'll find me getting personal a lot here on my podcast. I feel that's the way you truly connect with people. I feel that's the way you truly connect with your people, the people who get you, who understand you, who you can show up for and be 100% yourself with. There was a situation in my life not long ago where someone said something that hit me hard, someone close to me, and the hurt was real. I'm not dismissing that. But instead of sitting with it and responding from a clear head, my ego took the wheel. And for months, I chose distance over conversation, silence over working through it, and the relationship, something that genuinely mattered to me, something real, suffered for it. Looking back, I can see clearly now. The ego got wounded and it made the call. It said, we are pulling back. We're protecting ourselves. We're not letting this go. And I followed it without questioning it because in the moment it felt like the right thing. It felt like protecting my dignity. But dignity and ego are not the same thing. And that is a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Dignity is knowing your worth. Ego is needing everyone else to confirm it. I want to connect this back to something we talked about in episode 2. Because I think It is important, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. Remember when we covered rejection sensitive dysphoria? The thing where the people with ADHD feel the pain of rejection or criticism way more intensely than the above average person. Where might where what might be a small sitting for someone else, a small sting, it could feel like a full body blow that connects directly to the ego in a really specific way. If your brain is already wired to feel rejection more deeply, if the hurt hits harder and stays longer, then the ego's protective response is going to be stronger too. The wall goes up faster, the pull away happens quicker, the silence lasts longer because the original wound was bigger. Which means for people with ADHD, the ego is not just a quiet background voice, it's a loud one, a fast one that moves before you have had the chance to think. And knowing that, just having awareness changes things. Because instead of looking at your reactions and wondering what is wrong with you, you start to understand why that response was that intense. And understanding it is the first step to not being run by it. Let me give you some signs because I think most people can look at this list and recognize themselves in at least a few of them. You need to be right more than you need things to be resolved. The argument is less about the actual issue and more about who wins it. You avoid people or situations not because they are genuinely harmful, but because facing them would require you to be vulnerable. And the ego does not do vulnerable. You feel personally attacked by things that were not actually about you. A comment, a look, something someone said to someone else that you interpreted as a dig. You make decisions based on how they will look to other people instead of what actually feels right to you. You hold on to things longer than they deserve. The ego has a long memory for wounds. You find it almost impossible to say you were wrong, not because you genuinely believe you were right, but because admitting it feels like something is being taken from you. Now, I want to be clear. None of this makes you a bad person. Every single one of those things is just a human being trying to protect themselves. The ego came from somewhere. It was built out of real experiences, real pain, real moments where you needed to protect yourself, and the ego stepped up and did that job. The problem is it does not know when to stop. It keeps protecting you when protection is not what is needed anymore. I want to make sure this does not get misread because there is a version of this conversation that makes people feel like wanting to be seen, wanting to be respected, wanting to feel good about yourself is somehow wrong. And that is not what I'm saying at all. Confidence is knowing who you are without needing everybody else to confirm it. Ego is needing the confirmation to feel okay. Confidence is being able to say, I made a mistake without feeling like it defines you. Ego is avoiding the admission because being wrong feels like losing something. Confidence is being able to sit with someone disagreeing with you and still staying grounded in yourself. Ego is the feeling like disagreement is an attack. The goal is not to destroy your ego, it is not to become a doormat. It is to get to know your ego well enough that you can see when it's talking and choose whether to follow it or not. Because sometimes protecting yourself is the right call. Sometimes the ego is not wrong. The difference is whether you're making a conscious choice or just being pulled along by a reaction. Here's something I want you to really hear. The moment you catch your ego, the moment you step back and recognize it mid sentence or mid reaction, something shifts. Because you can only be controlled by something you cannot see. The second you see it, you have a choice. I caught mine talking about this podcast. I heard it say I want to be seen as intelligent. And instead of just keeping it going, I stopped and I looked at it. Asked questions like, where does that come from? Why does it need that? What happened at some point that made being seen as smart feeling so important? I don't have the full answer to that yet, but I am asking the question. And asking the question is what matters. Because here's what I know about myself right now, I'm learning every single day. I do not have this figured out. This is my first time being alive, my first journey through this. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. There is something really freeing in that. And saying out loud, I am a work in progress. I have made decisions from a wounded place. I have let something that was not really me make calls that cost me the things I care about. And I'm still figuring out the difference between what I actually want and what my ego wants. That's not a weakness. That's the most honest thing a person can say, in my opinion. I want to bring this home because I think episode 10 is a good place to zoom out and look at the thread running through this whole show. We've talked about how your brain filters reality. We've talked about how your memory reconstructs the past every time you revisit it. About how your brain creates patterns and sometimes finds them when they do not even exist. We talked about dreams that rewire your behavior, about synchronicities that point at something your conscious mind has not caught up with yet. The ego is all part of that. It's one of the biggest filters running. It colors everything you see, it colors everything that you hear and feel through the lens of what does this mean for me and my image. And just like that, with every other filter we have talked about on this show, the moment you become aware of it, you are no longer completely controlled by it. That is this whole game. No, no perfection. Not having it all figured out. Just awareness. Just the ability to step back for a second and ask, is this me talking? Or is this the character my mind built to protect me? That question alone can change a lot. That is episode 10, everybody. I want to say something to the people who have been here from the start. 10 episodes in. You have watched this show find its legs. You've heard me get personal in ways I did not plan. You have been a part of something that's growing every single day. And I do not want to take that for granted, not even a little bit. If you're new here, welcome. Go back to episode 1, take the whole ride. It builds into something, and I really think that you're going to be able to feel that. Wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pocket Cast, please hit that follow button if you have not already. And if you could take 10 seconds and leave a rating, I would really appreciate it. Every follow and every rating helps this show reach somebody who needs it. That is the whole reason I show up every day. If today hit you, share it. I'm sure you know somebody who needs to hear this conversation. Got a new episode coming out tomorrow. Stay curious, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you then.